All right, now that we're done rocking out to James, welcome everyone. We just wanted to give everyone a moment or two to join, but welcome to the webinar workshop. Today, we're so happy to have everyone. I see a few familiar faces as well, so that's always amazing. I'm Julia Chester. I'm the marketing manager here at BMO, and I'll be your host today. If you did catch that Etta James song we had playing in the intro, you know that today we are talking about security for your small business. And like Etta says, we all want security, right? But we also want to keep costs down. And we want to make it so that your employees can still easily collaborate. So not too much security, but just enough. Today, we've got some solutions that can do just that. And then we're going to actually show you how to implement them right here and now. So that's why this is a workshop as well. I'll be monitoring the chat as we go along, so please feel free to drop your questions in there. A few quick other housekeeping items. We'll be holding webinars the next 2 Wednesdays at the same time for answering any security questions you have or to workshop security needs and any questions that arise from this webinar as well. So we will drop a link to those at the end of this webinar, and we'll also be presenting a special offer for attendees. So make sure to stay till the end so you can see all of the goodies. Without further ado, let me introduce your expert today, Suzanne Sims. Suzanne is our modern work evangelist at BMO. She holds Microsoft certifications in MS 900, MS 700, and is currently working towards the MS 100. Without revealing Suzanne's age, we will tell you that she's been a Microsoft enthusiast for her entire career and has experienced the progression of Microsoft product innovation from the days when graphical operating systems first appeared and the only cloud was the white thing in the sky. Suzanne was actually a BMO customer prior to joining BMO, which is pretty special. She was the IT director of a public school we worked with and successfully shifted their on-premise infrastructure to the Microsoft Cloud, which paved the way for a super successful distance learning program during COVID, which was awesome. Finding technology solutions to solve business problems is her forte. Her professional experiences have made her a Jack, or rather a Jane, of all trades, from positions in customer support, network administration, software testing, and technical training, to even managing an IT company on the Wind River Reservation. That's a mouthful. She's experienced a multitude of roles and is happy to be here today to lend her expertise. So I will hand it off to you, Susie. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Julia. Wow, we have a big attendance today. This is exciting. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of content in a small amount of time. And of course, we'll start out with why are we here today? And as we see it day in and day out, our customers struggle with these 3 challenges. Working together when we're sometimes apart. We're always apart at BMO, so we've got this challenge mastered. Security, right? Your distributed environment now, and how do you secure that? And finally, cost. Your small business, and cost is of utmost importance, and security costs. So answering the first question, how can we do distributed work better and enable employees to stay productive and connected with each other, and not only with each other, with customers and partners? Without the security of the network perimeter, so if you were just not in the cloud, in the old days, we were not in the cloud, we had that security. We were inside the building. Our network is physically located separately. Now you're in the cloud, you have increased use of personal device, and then these security risk vectors have increased. And this leads to the second question. How do we ensure security of our data and our devices in a distributed work environment, while also not restricting access so much that no one can get anything done? And third, finally, how can we manage the costs in the face of economic uncertainty? And of course, it's all over the news now, all the economic uncertainty. It almost seems impossible if we're adding security and productivity tools. How are we going to reduce costs? Well, let's calculate the cost of lost productivity because employees can't find their files when they're working off-site or they're using multiple platforms for messaging, meetings, etc. And the cost of the IT administration for the multiple systems. And I've been through that. I have 20 disparate systems and you have to become the expert on each one and they don't all flow smoothly together. Cost of third-party software in itself. Maybe you're using WhatsApp, Slack, Duo, Dropbox, the Microsoft products, and you may already have a subscription, may already provide those capabilities, and you're paying separately for another product. So you can reduce costs there, beef up your security with premium. As we go through this webinar, start thinking about all the products you currently use for collaboration and security and add those costs up. And not just the cost of the product itself, but the expertise to manage the individual ones and the inconvenience of managing multiple bills and billing dates. Renewals can be a nightmare. So we hear a lot about multi-layered protection, but what does that really mean? When we talk about multi-layered protection, we are talking about a proactive security approach that encompasses all aspects of your business from multiple standpoints. You protect your home by maybe having a locked gate. Analogies always work best. If someone climbs the gate, then they get to the front door, or maybe they can break a window if you have the front door locked. A proactive multi-layer approach to home protection might include not only the obvious door locks, but maybe security alarms or a really mean guard dog, like I have, video surveillance, and maybe even automated calls to 911 when a security detection happens. Or maybe you just go to the full Home Alone approach. This is my house. I have to defend it. So as you can see from this business premium brings that multi-layered protection. And that is over identity, device, let me turn over my laser, device, application, and document. And I'll give you a few seconds to kind of review this because today because of time, we're only going to hit this first layer, but take a look at all of what Business Premium gives you as far as security. And just so you know, in our upcoming office hours, we will be going over these other layers, as well as it'll be a little more informal where we can really just get in some conversations and answer questions. So today focuses on identity security. So why should SMBs care about security? There was a 300% increase in ransomware attacks, with more than 50% directed against small businesses. But what's worse is that while small and medium businesses face similar threats as large enterprises, they don't have quite the same protection or can afford the same protection. The average cost of a data breach for an SMB was about $108,000. And that stat was from 2019. So I'm sure it's much greater now. Get rid of my laser pointer there. That's why it makes so much economic sense for small businesses to invest in security up front. So if you haven't invested in any protection tools yet because of costs, you need to think about that $108,000 when a breach occurs. If you think about it, the necessity of spending money on security tools is like spending money on insurance. Chances are probably greater of getting hacked than a fire burning down your office, but you surely wouldn't go without insuring your building for fire. You should treat the cost of security tools in the same way. You do it because you can't afford the loss to happen. Small business owners understand the benefits of using modern cloud services. We know that, but sometimes they just don't know where to start. They're busy maintaining their business, daily operations. Hopefully we can help you with that. We will walk you through some common scenarios and challenges in a business like yours And then we'll map these challenges to solution areas. We'll have a Q&A at the end where we can address any specific challenges your business might have. So as you're going, if you have some thoughts of, oh, that slide or a comment that I made brought a question to mind, jot it down. And in the Q&A, don't be shy. So let's start with a scenario, and this is dealing with productivity of your employees, less with security. And we're going to start with the first challenge. This is loss of productivity due to legacy communication tools. In this example, employees of a fictitious company, Northwind Traders, they work from multiple locations, and some are working from home, some are in the office, and some are mobile. The sales team has some really big deals, and they need to communicate really quickly with the marketing department on pricing and a business proposal. However, legacy communication tools means they're constantly sending attachments that are out of sync. No one knows what version they're on. Plus, they end up using different tools and apps for document creation, for communication, and storage, which creates that back and forth. And this slows down work. It creates a frustrating experience for employees, and it will frustrate your customers if they have to wait. So the solution, collaborate in real time. And hopefully you are using Microsoft Teams already. If you're here, we contacted you about upgrading. Maybe you have, a basic license, Microsoft 365 Basic, and you've been using Teams, but you haven't been using all the features. Anyway, you might be just using like virtual meetings and maybe just chat and none of the other features. So in this solution, the sales team can collaborate effortlessly in real time with their marketing team through online chat and meetings. And they can also co-author documents in real time. And then that will alleviate that version control issue. And then your customers aren't getting the wrong version of the document. We got a clap there. Everyone is aware of deadlines and tasks with integrated calendar, planner, and to-do apps. And if you're already using Teams, but you're not using it to its full extent, I encourage you to task someone in your organization to be the champion of those unused features in Teams. And not just the unused features in Teams, some of the products that come with your subscription in Microsoft 365. For example, you have bookings, Microsoft Bookings. Maybe you didn't know you had it. It's included in your subscription, but now you're paying for another product for appointment scheduling, and it's all right there in bookings. I think we'd all agree that user adoption of new tech is tough, and people like to use whatever they're already comfortable with. So that's the hard part, getting them off of Slack or getting them off of whatever app they're using for messaging and getting them onto Teams. But start thinking about how you can save costs through adoption of existing Microsoft products that are already in your subscription. Okay, we're going to roll to security. Identity security is the focus today. So let's talk about aspects of security, starting with enabling secure access to work data for employees and partners. So we need access to work data from the office, from home, and on the go. And we need to collaborate with partners, customers, and suppliers. However, this can bring on some serious challenges when it comes to making sure the wrong people don't get access to your data. Now that your data is in the cloud, anyone with your password can just load the site in the browser and try to log in. Bad actors outside your circle of trust, outside your network perimeter, they might try to gain access to the work information, for example, by stealing passwords and trying to gain access to it from another country. This scenario focuses on identity security. Prove who you are before you can get in the door. So the solution? You can configure Azure AD's advanced multi-factor authentication and conditional access policies to help ensure that the right people have the right access to work data by controlling who, when, and where work apps can be accessed. And this is with Business Premium, you get these advanced features. In fact, simply turning on MFA can thwart 99% of identity attacks. So we all probably know MFA is your first line of defense. Like we said, Microsoft takes a layered approach to security. So in addition to MFA, we can use conditional access policies. And those simply are if-then statements. If a certain condition is met when someone's trying to authenticate, then access is allowed or denied. You can get real specific with these. And I got a heart from Adam. We will show your Azure AD in a few minutes and show you how to set up MFA and conditional access policies. Okay. Passwords are the weakest link in a security chain and a single point of failure when you're not using any additional verification. So just straight passwords. Hopefully we're all beyond that. But if you're not, you need to be. That's why we believe strongly if there's only one thing you do to help protect yourself, it should be to turn on MFA, which can prevent 99% of identity attacks. Microsoft supports a broad range of authentication options to fit the needs of your business and your users. These methods are continually evolving as the threat landscape grows, and we're seeing that lately. They've changed Authenticator since I've shown this on the video that's coming up, but they realize that people are getting complacent about approving requests and they're changing the way Authenticator works. So Microsoft's security position is great and they are proactive and hopefully can protect us before we even know we need it protected. Multi-factor authentication uses a minimum of 2 of the following. Something you know, that's right, 2-factor authentication. Something you know, something you have, and something that's a part of you, okay? Something you know would be like a password. Something you have could be a security key, Windows Hello, your computer, and something, an authenticator, and something that is a part of you, which can be biometrics. That can be your facial recognition or your fingerprint. We all know from going to our credit card in our bank sites that they all have 2-factor authentication enabled. Hopefully they do, especially with all the banking stuff that's happening on right now. It can be a bit of a pain, okay? You have to remember username and password, you type it in, you receive a code in a text message on your phone, you go back to the website, and then you type the code in. So traditional MFA makes user authentication safer, but it does impact the user experience, and we want our users to be more productive. So how do we beef up security, but we make it easy for our employees? There's a couple ways, and we're going to talk about single sign-on, but also passwordless authentication. This is the movement. We're doing it here at BMO. We will show you 2 examples of passwordless authentication using Windows Hello for Business, which is included in Business Premium, and Authenticator. So we love passwordless at BMO. We use it ourselves daily. So why should you care about MFA? Passwords are vulnerable. MFA is one of the easiest and the quickest ways to improve your security posture. 90% of passwords can be cracked in less than 6 hours. 2/3 of people use the same password or a variation of that password anywhere. I'm sure you know some of those people. Criminals are getting more effective in stealing passwords through phishing and social engineering. So now let's take a look at MFA, how to turn it on, and the user experience in Windows Hello and Microsoft Authenticator. So I'm going to show you how to turn on. I just did a screenshot in this case because it's pretty simple. And it is a default for your tenant if it was created in the last year or 2. But I'm going to show you how to turn on MFA and self-service password reset so that your users can reset their passwords on their own, freeing up your IT. And then show you what that looks like on the user end when they hit an MFA request. For some organizations, security defaults offer a good level of additional sign-in. You don't get any choices. Microsoft says these are the biggest risks, and then those are the policies that are applied when you enable security defaults. On this slide, I'm showing you how simple it is to turn on security defaults in your tenant, which it should be default on. Note that it provides common policies, like I said, and you can't customize those policies unless you turn off security defaults and do your own policies, conditional access. And so step one, you just go in Azure AD properties, manage the defaults, and turn them on. So hopefully everyone has security defaults on, even if you don't have Business Premium. And then also turning on self-service password reset to help cut down on your help desk calls and manually resetting passwords. And that's just a toggle. Again, in your Azure AD, slide the toggle, and there it is. And now they've combined registration, and that way users can register once and get the benefits of both MFA, so they can put Authenticator on their phone, and then also SSPR. Okay, so here's where we start getting into the advantage of Business Premium with MFA, the advanced features. So it's kind of all or none with the security defaults. And you go with the out of the box. You're required for the default to use Authenticator. But what if you want more choices? Like maybe you do want SMS. Maybe you have some on-premise MFA that you need to incorporate. Maybe you need a mix of some users need a certain MFA. You have security keys, for your high-level top executives. And in those cases, you would want different policies to go for different people. So here's just kind of a quick screen. I'm not going to go into detail how to do it, but just wanted to know the benefits. And there's also things like you don't prompt for MFA on trusted devices. So if it's a company-owned device and you've established that it's a trusted device, then they don't get prompted all the time. Okay. So next slide, we're just going to quickly show Microsoft Authenticator, and you may have already seen Microsoft Authenticator and be using it. We use it, and we also use Windows Hello for Business, which much better. And that Windows Hello for Business, you have to have a Windows device, right? And that is entirely passwordless, and we sign in with facial recognition or a PIN. Okay. Get rid of my laser pointer. So here's Authenticator. On the left is the mobile device. And we're using Authenticator in this scenario not as passwordless, but it's a second form of authentication. So they signed in with their password, and then they get a sign-in request, and then they approve it, and then it continues to allow them in. So many of you probably already understand two-factor, and this is showing exactly how that works. On to Windows Hello. Now, Windows Hello is great, fantastic feature of Business Premium. So Windows Hello in the morning, you turn your computer on, has to be a Windows device. Turn your computer on, open it up, and let's see if I can get this video to run. There we go. And then what will happen is a camera will, your webcam, you have to have a webcam or a fingerprint sensor. See it at the top, I circled it. It comes on, recognizes your face, immediately logs you in. If for some reason you don't look the same that day, or your webcam's not working, you can also use a PIN. Okay. And there's more features to Windows Hello. I'm just giving you the basic. Okay, so now we've got all the methods of security for identity, and now we're like, oh, this could be really hard for our users because we're secure, but now they have to use all these methods to sign into all their different applications. So let's go ahead and address that with single sign-on. Workflows involving multiple credentials can be burdensome. We talked about that, and result in people finding risky ways to get their work done. They're going to try to get around it if it's too hard for them. We attribute 23% of security events to careless actions of uninformed employees. A fast, easy sign-in experience for users improves productivity and lowers their frustrations. Azure AD Premium, included in Business Premium, provides a single sign-on experience to not only Microsoft applications, but popular SaaS applications. And we'll show you a scenario with Salesforce. And additionally, if you have on-premise applications, you can have single sign-on set up for the on-premise applications. Ensuring that your users only need one set of credentials and fewer prompts to sign in. That's the goal. And here's just a slide that shows you a lot of these third-party SaaS applications. Even though we're all Microsoft all the time, even the best in the business doesn't have every app. So to make sure it's easy for employees to sign into their non-Microsoft apps, we use SSO, and it's a game changer. Modern organizations often use several different applications, so it's important to use an identity provider that can help you with that breadth of access. Azure AD can connect seamlessly to 3,300 plus pre-integrated non-Microsoft SaaS applications, all completely free with Azure AD Premium, and you can connect your on-premise apps and custom apps for SSO and secure access as well. So why should we care about SSO? Increased employee productivity. SSO improves usability for employees. With the move to the cloud, employees are using more and more apps. Requiring separate usernames and passwords creates a huge burden. SSO reduces that burden. Fewer help desk calls about passwords. Free up your IT staff from password resets. Users only have one set of credentials to remember, and if you have self-service password reset enabled, they can reset that one credential without help from your IT desk. Increase IT efficiency. Centralize user account management and automatically add or remove user access across apps based on their group membership or roles. So somebody moves from one department to the next, that is reflected in their access to the applications that those departments use. Enhance security. Reduce the reuse of usernames and passwords across apps to help minimize the risk of breaches. We all know that person who uses the same password across all their applications. And worse yet, they use like their dog's name. And their dog is a famous social media icon, so everybody knows the dog's name. And then they use that password to sign up for some new website that isn't secure. The hacker gets the password from that website and thinks, oh, their email was also stored. So they got into that website because it was insecure, got that information, and it's like, oh, they use Gmail. Let's go ahead and sign into Gmail. And I bet they use the same password. And they do. And boom, they're in. Okay. So now you've set up MFA and you want to ease the burden on your users because they have to sign into multiple systems throughout the day. And let's say you signed in using Windows Hello with passwordless facial recognition. So you haven't typed a password in. You open your Outlook email and then you launch a Word document. Still haven't typed a password in because Microsoft supports SSO across the apps. Then you're going to co-author the document with your colleague. You never had to authenticate or type in a password yet. Great. Now, you want to log into Salesforce, which is not Microsoft, right? You're on the sales team and you use Salesforce. Uh-oh. This is a non-Microsoft account, so I'm going to have to put in a username and password. Not necessarily, based on what we saw there. And I'm going to go ahead in this and show you how to set up SSO for Salesforce as an example. So first we go into Azure Active Directory and applications, enterprise applications, and we add a new application. And then you can see that list that was on the slide. There's a ton, and maybe you identify some that you use now. And we're probably just going to go, since there's so many, go up and search for Salesforce. And we're going to add that application. And notice when we do, there's a read our step-by-step tutorial. Every application has their own integration instructions. So that's kind of the hard part, is making sure those instructions are followed. Then back to the screen, you assign the users and group. In this case, we're just going to use our sales team. And then set up the single sign-on. Again, this is the hard part where you actually go in and follow those instructions and set up that trust relationship. Provision user accounts. There it is. And this is nice because you can automate, create, update, and delete user accounts through the life cycle of the application. And then finally, self-service. You can set up whether people can request access to the app. So now we've assigned Salesforce to Megan. She's going into Office and My Apps, and boom, there it is, along with all of her Microsoft applications. So hopefully that was clear how that would work. Okay, the scary slide. Don't get overwhelmed with this one. We talked about MFA being your first line of defense. Conditional access would be your second line of defense. So you're like, if MFA is so great, why do I need conditional access? MFA relies on humans, and humans can be flawed. For example, an employee is at the beach on the weekend and gets an MFA request, and of course is really busy, sunning themselves, looks at the phone and just hits approve. Doesn't even think, oh, I didn't try to sign in anything. Now, a bad actor has made it past the first line of defense. And this is where conditional access comes in. And you only get conditional access with Business Premium. Conditional access policies at their simplest are if-then statements. If a user wants to access a resource, then they must complete an action. So let's talk about an example. A payroll manager wants to access the payroll application and is required to do multi-factor authentication to access it. Or maybe we want to require that payroll application can only be accessed from a device managed by the organization. So you don't want them using their personal devices, right? The beauty of conditional access is that we can make it so both those conditions must be met, or another condition. We can add all kinds of conditions before getting into the app, the payroll app. Okay, and again, this is just kind of a example when you go in of templates they have automatically, and you can see the areas. Secure Foundation is the default ones when you turn on security defaults. So those are automatically applied with security defaults, but these are all the additional ones you can have with Business Premium. In a minute, we'll run through a creation of one of these. So we talked about that employee at the beach who had her password stolen and went ahead and clicked on approve, right? She got the second factor request on the Authenticator app on her phone, and there's the human error. So she's been getting a lot of these requests on Authenticator, and she realizes this doesn't seem right. So she talks to the IT admin person and notifies them. They investigate and they look in the logs in Azure AD. And that's a nice part. You can go in there and you can, in detail, get insights into the identities that are trying to log in or that have logged into your tenant. The IT admin investigates and sees a ton of login requests from different countries that he's never heard of. Cameroon, I don't know where that is. And this is a US-based company. So that's a problem. So now I decide, hey, let's build that second line of defense and let's go ahead and just go ahead and block any sign-ins from countries outside the US. So I'm going to show you that in a demo tenant and not a video. Give me a second. Hopefully I don't mess up my sharing of the slides. Okay, it worked. So here I go into Azure AD and protect and secure and conditional access. Okay. Now, first we said we want to block all locations but the US, right? So we're going to set up this if then statement, but first we have to set up the if, right? If you're from a location that we define. So we're going to go to name locations and we're doing all locations but the US. I already created it, but I just want to show you. All right. So then I go in and I say even include unknown countries and regions, and I pick them all. I'm really interested in Cameroon. And I don't select the US. Look at all these locations. I actually had this happen in real life. Like I was seeing them on the logs and there's some crazy locations. All right. And I deselect United States. There you go. So now we have the if. Okay. We're going to set up the policy and we do a new policy. And we know that, I'm going to skip down to the bottom because we know this is going to be a block, right? We're going to block access. And we name the policy, don't allow access outside of US, right? And then users, we would apply it to all of our users, which you would select all users. And then conditions, this is the one we want to. So our condition, remember, was location, right? This is the if. If they are from any location but the US, then block them. Okay, and then report only allows you to test it, and then you can look at the logs to see that it worked properly. Otherwise, if you got your logic wrong, you might block everybody from logging in. Okay, great. Let me stop sharing this and we'll roll back into the last slides of the demo. Okay. Now, I'm just going to show you, we're almost done, and I'm just going to show you what that looks like from a user perspective. We set that location policy, and now I want you to see when the bad actor from Cameroon tries to sign in, what they'll receive, because they already have our person's username and they're trying to sign in. We're trying to stop that from happening. We're trying to stop her from getting all these authenticator requests. Okay. Remember that all attempted logins are logged in Azure, so you can get real insights into who's trying to access your data, and creating these policies is a logic game. So there's endless potential to tailor them to your needs. All right, let's go ahead and be the bad actor. They're going to sign in. They have the password. And it was signing them in, but now they get, you cannot access this right now. Your sign-in was successful, but does not meet the criteria to access this resource. We're hitting the conditional access policy. You might be signing in from a browser, app, or keyword location that is restricted by your admin. So we know it worked. With Business Premium, you can manage your devices and applications. So your conditional access policies can work hand in hand with your device and app management security as well. All right. We're on the end here. How do you get advanced MFA, SSO, and conditional access? And if you haven't guessed it by now, you haven't been listening. Business Premium. It's our most comprehensive offering for small and mid-sized businesses under 300 users. And it's a small price jump to get all the office productivity tools, plus enterprise grade security, plus device management, which we didn't go through today, plus information protection, which we also did not go through today. Very important features, and so much more in a cost-effective package to address the challenges that we spoke about. And I wish we would have some more time to go over some challenge solution scenarios, like managing remote devices with Intune, so important, preventing leaks of sensitive data, like credit card information that you store of your customers. You got to keep your customers' trust. And like preventing ransomware attacks with Defender for Business. Defender for Business is so full featured. It's amazing that it's actually provided for small businesses without getting an enterprise license. If you want to know more about or just high level of those features, if you haven't looked at that Business Premium blog, I don't know if somebody can throw a link in the chat, but it does give some detailed scenarios of how Business Premium would address it. All right, let's move on to Q&A. Hey, I made the time by 1 minute, right?
Yes. Great work, Susie.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susie. I think you guys can tell those real life experiences that she has like really make it clear where things are applicable. So it always makes it a lot more helpful for me. We'll jump into the Q&A. What are your questions? It doesn't even have to be on exactly what we just talked about, but just if you're wondering about security for your small business, kind of what you need to do, what is confusing you? We want to hear from you. And I also see Adam jumping on. We have some BMO team members here, so they can also jump in and answer any of the questions that we get. We are here to help you. Adam just dropped his email in the chat as well, adam@bmopro.com. Please feel free to reach out. And you can ask him anything offline if you like.
Yeah, because sometimes I know that feeling. Sometimes you don't want to say it in front of everybody because you think, oh no, everyone knows more than me, but probably not true. Everybody's just scared to ask.
And it's personal. It's your own business. We get it. So again, we're here for any sort of questions you might have. One really common customer question that we get when people are considering upgrading to Business Premium is like, is it really worth the price increase? Because, you can see on the last slide, there's a little jump there. Do you guys want to maybe address that? I think that's helpful.
We're all waiting to see who's going to address it first. It's like, I can. It doesn't matter.
However you guys want. Yeah, however you guys want. If you want, I can speak to that. Sorry, I was typing. If you could repeat the question.
Oh, yes. And suggestions for content you would like to see. Yes, as well. Exactly. We shared that Business Premium blog. If you have questions and you want to see content in the future, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, the question is, we saw Susie's last slide and it shows that kind of price increase for getting Business Premium. And why? What is the benefit? That's kind of a price jump. So how can we validate that for people?
Yeah, I guess, I'd love to speak to that. So Microsoft for small business licensing, they break it into 3 tiers. You have $6 a month, $12.50 a month, and then $22 a month for Business Premium. When you start packaging of all those little things that Susie was sharing there at the end, they are add-ons that you could just purchase individually, but Microsoft, it's a lot cheaper to just bring it all down into one package. When you purchase it for $22 a month, it's cheaper than doing the add-ons individually, or like Susie was showcasing there, going to third-party vendors and purchasing these tools elsewhere instead of just incorporating it under Microsoft's platform. And I also love Susie's call out there around single sign-on. Here, working at BMO, I could say that's been one of my favorite features that we have here is no matter what website, what tool we're using, I just go log in, use my BMO account, and I don't have to remember 1,000 different passwords. So great call out there. But I think it's the cheapest way you can get a lot of those security features that most businesses need to operate.
Yeah, I
What?
saw the one about the MFA, and I do have the answer. I actually put a slide because, as you're doing things, you know, becoming an expert on every single Microsoft product or feature as they change those, it can be confusing for the best of us. So I actually was like, yeah, what do you get with MFA with like Business Basic or Standard? And I actually brought in a little slide in case somebody
Yeah.
asks that, because it's funny because
And
I had the same thought. I can
just to
always
make
test
sure.
it, but yeah.
Yeah, just to make sure everyone knows which question she's
Oh,
referring
I'm sorry.
to. Jim asked, to implement MFA, do all licenses have to be premium? We currently have some basic or standard and some are premium. So yeah, please speak to that, Susie. That'd be great.
Yeah, and so here you can look, let me get that little laser. I love the laser pointer. In this slide, when they say, so I know you might be on another business plan that's not premium, those would be using this, the Azure AD free with those security defaults I talked about that were enabled. You have no customization outside of it's on, and this is what applies, which is all users, right? So maybe you have a resource account or something, or maybe an older, like I had this scenario, an older digital sender scan to email, like that account, you don't want to put MFA on it, right? So that is all or none with the others. With Business Premium, that is here on this column. So as you can see, so they do say with the free, the global admins get, these other choices, but this is where you'd be sitting if you're not on Business Premium. This is where you'd be sitting if you are on Business Premium. So you can look at some of the features starting from here down. What you can use as a second factor phone call, SMS, and admin control over the verification methods. And I put that on a slide there when you saw I put the different methods, like if you have hardware tokens, whatever, you want specific MFA security measures for important people, you can get more granular with those policies. Fraud alert, the MFA reports, kind of nice to look at those. And then you can look down through here, but these are all, you can establish trusted IPs. So that would be kind of like if somebody's coming from your internal network, right? That IP address means they're in your network perimeter. So you can establish policies that say, oh, if they come from the trusted IP, then allow this, right? And I like this one. Remember MFA for trusted devices. So you can specifically, if they've already done two-factor on that device, let's not prompt them again for another, whatever, 60 days or something. So anyway, hopefully that answers some of, and this one, if you have any on-premise applications, that's big, kind of need to go there. Hopefully that answered the question. Okay.
Yeah.
Glad I was prepared for that one because I thought the same thing. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay. I guess to answer Brandon's question in the chat there, some of the competition that I've worked with in my past would be Jamf for endpoint management. A lot of people using Apple devices are looking at Jamf. But like Julia was saying, we live in a modern world where people are bringing their own devices, and a Microsoft Intune platform is really more inclusive of no matter what device you're using, they'll have ways that you can manage and protect applications or your business data. And I choose Intune for that reason.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the question on that one.
He said, what are common tools that people get rid of to consolidate to Microsoft 365? So I think when you're talking about Intune, that is one of the big reasons.
Yeah.
But we also see a lot of people using like Google that aren't using, they're using a disparate system. So you have like, they're using Google, but they don't like Google Hangouts. So they're using Slack and all these multitude of tools, and they can't control things in the same way you can when everything's under one umbrella.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like Okta, but the security tools, they might be using Duo,
Yep.
Bitdefender, like you got to think you've got antivirus, firewall antivirus. Here's kind of a slide that gives you those details, but what is actually, I don't like bring those up because they're kind of scary, but you may have something for encryption that is a separate product or anti-phishing or, but.
Yep. Or VMware is another big one.
VMware, yeah.
I think for your secondary question there, Brandon, you're asking if a user wants to use Microsoft multi-factor authentication to authenticate other apps, do you need ADP1 or AADP2? I think I would have to defer if I could. I don't know the technical answer to this one.
Yeah.
Josh, can I pull you in for support on this one? Do you know the answer to that?
I'd have to look into that and get back to you on it. If you want MFA into Office 365, then any license is fine.
I think actually Brandon is answering Jim's
There you go.
prior question.
That's perfect.
Oh,
Okay, I was
I
going to say that
mistake
doesn't sound
about-
like a
all right.
question to me.
All right, I'm sorry about
I
that.
guess I should look at the chat. I haven't looked at it. There we go.
No, that's my job. I got you. Well, another common question we get is like, are additional security features enabled out of the box, or how does that work in terms of configuration? Do you guys want to speak to that?
On Tenet, we talked about those security defaults, right? And so there's a base level that is applied if you apply that. Yeah, but you do have to. So let's say like even in Intune or the conditional access policies, if you're going to do the more granular, you would have to. You're responsible to go in and configure those. So we kind of looked at the base of what you have as security defaults versus.
Yep.
And we didn't go into the other products, but if you saw that, you could see
I guess
similarly.
if I could add to that too. So
Mhm.
the onus does fall on the user, but one of the things that we do here at BMO is BMO cybersecurity. As you see in my background here,
Right.
we're cybersecurity experts. You can always consult with us. We have engineers, Azure specialists that can come in and help you configure everything that Microsoft has to offer.
Exactly. Versus adding a whole new Microsoft person to your team, you can just add us and have a huge team on your side. Okay, great. I don't see any other questions. So again, like Susie said, if you're feeling a little shy or if you maybe haven't thought of your question yet, but it comes to you later, please feel free to reach out. Adam@bmopro.com. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Susie. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We are here for you. We have the knowledge. We want you to have the knowledge as well, and how to protect your small business.